Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode. Sorry for being late. First of all, we had a bit of a mishap with using the link from last week to go live. So we're back. We're live. Lila, thank you so much for coming. Like I was saying on the other
That's
just five
okay.
minutes ago. Uh, we're on episode 2 of Month of Campus Refresh. Like we started the Month of Campus Refresh in December. Last week we've had Jeremy, and actually I was just using the link from last week to stream with Lila, which was my mistake. I apologize. So we switched on. We have the right link. We have the correct channels now. Everything is going well. So apologies for being a bit late today on this, but now we're in the right spot. So we'll keep going today with the second episode of Month of Campus Refresh. We're going to talk briefly about Cisco Prime Infrastructure migration to Catalyst Center. Lila had also covered a bit already, but we'll just go and
We'll
bring
go
it
with
up
it.
again. Repetition is the mother of learning.
There you go.
So we'll do that. We'll have a look at the tool that the team has built, the steps that you need to take to from that migration from Prime Infrastructure to Catalyst Center. And then we'll also briefly touch upon the migration workflow in Cisco Catalyst Center from like older 3850s, 2960s, 3860s, Catalyst switches to the 9000 family, the new ones, 9200s, 9300s, and all of those new ones. So without much introduction, since we're 10 minutes late here, Lila, thank you so much for coming. Like I was saying, big fan here. Been watching your presentations at Cisco Live, all of them, all your Catalyst Center with Adam Radford. Those are like fantastic presentations and fantastic content. So thank you so much for contributing to the community, to bring your knowledge and teaching all of us. So really appreciate it. Tell us a bit about yourself, since I know you've been with Cisco for a bit of time. Where are you these days? What have you been doing? How's it going for you?
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Lila Russo. I'm a principal solutions engineer. I'm in what we call the networking organization that covers mostly campus infrastructure, branch, so switching and wireless and all the platforms that manage this infrastructure. I my organization is Americas, so I'm located in Toronto, in Canada. I've been living here for more than 20 years. I'm originally from Argentina, but now I'm in Toronto, but I cover all Americas. Yes, I've been with Cisco several years. December 1st was my 26th year
Wow.
anniversary, so it's been a while now.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I've been very involved in this automation space with our controllers. Today is Catalyst Center, but as you know, it went through iterations with DNA Center and APKM and Enterprise Network Controller before that. I'm not business unit, so I don't own the product. I'm in the sales organization, technical sales. But I work very closely with the BU. We work together. We have a great relationship. And yes, I've been presenting this topic for a long time. Now I'm like everyone else, we are involved in some shape or form with AI. So I'm working on AI Canvas, the different AI assistants for the platform, still related to our automation journey. And today I wanted to cover a little bit on Prime migration because we are getting to the last day of support of Prime migration. So this is an important conversation to have. And
All
let
right.
me
Let's
see.
let's jump into that
Let me
discussion
see
first.
if you can see.
There we go. Yes. The
Perfect.
timeline.
It's a timeline, right? So I have this cheat sheet with me, and we are here. We already passed for me a date that kind of it's a bigger hint than the announcement that we need to start moving into newer and more current platforms because this is the end of vulnerability security support. So we want to maintain our platforms as safe as possible. So thinking about moving to newer platforms is always a good idea. So with that, as you mentioned in the intro, I want to share the steps that we recommend when we start thinking about migration from Prime into Catalyst Center. We'll talk at the end about other options as well, but this portion is migrating specifically from Prime to Catalyst Center. And the first step is really understanding Catalyst Center. And we are not trying to be silly about that. It's mostly because the operational model, the way we do operations with a more traditional management platform, can be quite different from a platform that is more of a controller. So understanding those differences, how workflows are a little bit different, will really enhance our migration, not only from a platform perspective, but what we call the operational model, how you do operations, what are the steps you take to perform an action with your management platform, to do troubleshooting with your management platform. So understanding is the key of that migration of the operational model. And for that, what we recommend, yes, you'll see the screens going, but I want to show you one quick thing.
Mhm.
The great source for this, yes, if you have an option to go through the Cisco Live library, that's awesome. But those are long presentations. So there's the Catalyst Center YouTube channel. There are a lot of very short videos, like 10 minutes videos to 15, that gives you very specific information on all the different capabilities of Catalyst Center. So great source. I recorded a few here. So great source of information if you're interested in knowing more. So I really recommend. So that would be step number one. Step number two, which probably is the most important step in all of this, believe it or not, even before migration, is leveraging a tool. So we're going to talk about two tools that are different. This is called the PDART tool, and this is an assessment tool. So it's a tool that you install in Prime infrastructure, and I'll give you some pointers on how to do that. You run the tool, and the only thing that the tool does is analyze your Prime environment and gives you a very comprehensive report on where you are from a migration perspective. So what features you're running in Prime, what reports you're using, how many devices, the type of devices you have. Is all of that already supported in Catalyst Center, or you might have any issues with migration? Is your Prime infrastructure ready to use the migration tool, or there are things that you need to fix before doing that? So running that report is very important to kind of guarantee or have a better chance, if you wish, to have a very smooth migration. Then is preparing for your migration, and that is making decisions on how, and I'll provide some probing questions that will help you get to that plan, but how you want to go about that migration. Do you want to migrate everything at once? Do you want to do it in stages, meaning maybe locations that are low risk first, so you get more comfortable with Catalyst Center? How do you want to go about automation? Do you want to keep it in Prime for a little bit of time and do assurance in Catalyst Center first? So all these decisions need to be made before you even run the migration tool. So next step is 4 and 5. They're kind of the same. And this is where we're going to use the second tool. So again, first tool is giving a report. That's an assessment. And the second tool is the actual migration tool. So you grab stuff from Prime and you copy it in Catalyst Center. So that's what the migration tool is going to do. And the best bet for that tool, as I mentioned before, is to have a proper plan in phase number 3. So then once you finish the migration, the step number 6, again, we are not trying to be cheeky here, is adopting Catalyst Center. Sometimes when we come from an operational model, meaning doing things one way, and then we go to a new model, we kind of leave it there. And then we miss an opportunity of leveraging all these awesome capabilities that we have in Catalyst Center. So spending a little bit of time on better understanding Catalyst Center now with your environment in place, how you can do things differently. So you did things in one way with Prime. So now you might need to do things a little bit differently in Catalyst Center. So doing all those things will give you the most bang for your buck.
So there's a quick comment here,
Yes.
Lila. So we have Hearn Nielsen noticed that the format for map export imports have changed between Prime and Catalyst Center, which basically means that the migration tool is the only way to do this migration, which is a bit limiting. And they also said that this also means that I now cannot import new maps from Maze Map to Catalyst Center, which I used to do for Prime. So the map migration, basically.
Yes, you can export. So again, it would be interesting to know more from Prime infrastructure to Catalyst Center. If it's in Prime, you can do. Let's put aside the migration tool, but you can do an export from Prime and import from Catalyst Center. So I don't know if you run into problems, but that option is there. You can do the same thing with your network hierarchy. So there's the option of export and import. So you should be able to do that. From the other map tool that you mentioned, yes, I will have to look into that. I don't know that tool, Maze Map you mentioned, so I will have to look into that and see what the support is. I know we can do it from Akahau, but not everyone uses Akahau Pro, so that would be an option. But from Prime, again, it would be interesting to see why you say you cannot do it anymore, because we do support export from Prime and importing into Catalyst Center. But if you want to provide more details, I'll look into that later.
Thanks, Lila.
Awesome. So this is the PIDAR tool. So this is the assessment tool. Again, the whole purpose of this tool is to get this report that I'll show you in a minute. How do we install the tool? It's pretty straightforward. So it applies like a software update, like a patch to Prime infrastructure. The only thing that you need to do that is disruptive, if you wish, is that we need to reboot Prime infrastructure. So depending on your policy, you might need to have a maintenance window for that, but there's no changes actually made to any of your network devices, to your network, to your configs. It's just installing this patch, rebooting Prime infrastructure, and then you're going to be able to launch, depending on what version you have of Prime infrastructure, it looks a little bit differently. But in the latest versions, you have a launching point that it's called Prime Data Migration Tool that allows you to run either the PDART or the actual migration tool. So you need to come to settings here, and this is where you can execute the PDART tool, and then when it becomes available, you download the report. And the report, this is older, so don't look at the specifics of the versions and all those things. Think more about what you're getting. So the first thing that you are getting is looking at the devices that you have in Prime. So from your devices, how many devices are supported, how many devices are completely or unsupported, how many devices are supported but might require a software upgrade. Then we have the features. So what features you're actually using from Prime. Prime has a lot of features. How many of those are supported, unsupported, roadmap. Again, this is from a very old version of Catalyst Center, so don't mind the actual numbers. Same thing with reports and same thing on scale. This report is 35 pages. So once you go down, you have, again, very comprehensive information, even up to the point where we see it device by device. So here we have every single device that we had in the network, except for the access points. The access points are all aggregated here because obviously you can have thousands of thousands of access points. So those are the only ones that are not listed one by one. And then when you go all the way down, sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy, but once you go, yes, once you go all the way down, you get specific recommendations. Yes, there it goes. So you get specific recommendations on what Prime looks like. And if there are some aspects of Prime infrastructure that might conflict on what Catalyst Center is needed. So in this case, for example, I have devices that are unmanaged. So this is saying unmanaged devices will not be migrated to, so keep that in mind. The other difference, and we might see this in the demo, is that Prime infrastructure, the locations in Prime, the buildings, they don't require a real geolocation. In Catalyst Center, a geolocation is mandatory because of how Catalyst Center works. So if you have buildings that they don't have a physical address associated, those are going to, I want to say they will give you an error, but that's not true. We'll see that the actual migration tool will help you fix that. But ideally, if you have many of those buildings, ideally you might want to fix this before the migration. So this is what I was alluding to before, saying running this will give you a lot of insights on where you are. And the other thing that I wanted to show you that I skipped, that I want to show you, is that you also get, I mentioned this, but here you have more details. It gives you a list of what features you're currently using in Prime. It tells you whether or not that feature is supported in that version of Catalyst Center and what is the equivalent in Catalyst Center world. So you can find things. Also, if there are things that are not supported, you might decide whether or not that's a stopgap. In some situations, it might not. Some people test things that they are not actually using. So in that case, it's not a stopgap. So long story short, this will give you a lot of insight that help you make decisions for that plan that I was mentioning before. Okay, so where we are now, we understand a little bit better Catalyst Center. We went through the YouTube videos. We ran the assessment tool. Now we have a plan for migration. How do we go about the other tool that it's called Prime Data Migration Tool, which is actually doing the migration? The first thing that we need to understand is what is migrated. By default, or the main components that you are going to migrate, is you are going to select one or more locations. So that's how it's called in Prime infrastructure. And all the locations, meaning the actual location, building, floors within that tree, is going to be copied as is with the address and everything into Catalyst Center. All devices that are located in those buildings, in those floors, are also going to be copied into Catalyst Center. And if you have some maps that the gentleman was alluding to before, the maps that are associated with the floors in that hierarchy are also going to be migrated with the access points, if we have them in place in Prime infrastructure, in the same place that we had them in Prime, we are going to copy that into Catalyst Center. So those are the three main things that we are going to migrate if they exist. But you can optionally choose to migrate templates. So if you created templates in Prime infrastructure that you want to reuse in Catalyst Center, you can copy those. And you have either ICE integration and or CMX for location integration. You can also migrate those to Catalyst Center from Prime. And those are optional. You don't have to do that. So what happens during the migration? Basically, we are using APIs from Prime into Catalyst Center to copy the information from one platform to the other. As we said before, if maps are available, they're migrated, the access points are positioned. But the other thing that happens is that when I copy a building, for example, from Prime into Catalyst Center, I then associate a switch, for example, to that building. That switch, from Catalyst Center perspective, is assigned to that building, which means that we are already pushing at that moment all the Catalyst Center telemetry that Catalyst Center needs from that switch. So the moment the migration finishes, you already have in those devices all the telemetry that you require to start gathering assurance. What that means is that during migration, Catalyst Center is going to push telemetry config to those devices. So if for that action you need maintenance window, then you need maintenance window, because yes, we are pushing telemetry to those devices when that action happens. And the other thing is that, and this is a good thing, but you might need to take care of this in the future, is that things, meaning devices, location, maps, are not removed from Prime infrastructure. So we don't remove stuff from Prime. We just copy the device, the locations, the maps, the templates, eyes from Prime to Catalyst Center. So any questions in the meantime? If not, we can go through a quick demo, but I want to pause a little bit to see where we are.
So yeah, there was another brief comment on the map exports. So Her Nielsen says that Prime exports are in zip, and basically Catalyst Center wants TGZ file formats, but we can probably show them.
Yeah, we'll take that offline because
Okay.
I want to see what versions, all that. I did a lot of export and import, so we will have to, I will need to see that comment, but I can send you a little bit of the information later on.
Okay, sounds good.
But
Thanks,
yes,
Eva.
I have them in pure, I don't have them in tar mode, so maybe that's the difference. Okay,
all right, so this is Prime infrastructure here, and we're starting the actual migration, or we're doing the PDAR tool first?
We are not doing the PDART. So I just already showed the report. So we are not doing the PDART. If you really want to see how it installed, it's very easy. It's like a patch, but there's a YouTube video on that. It's not very interesting to show. This is more about the migration. Okay. So I'm going to first show what I have in Prime. So I have a wireless LAN controllers. I have a few switches. I have a few routers. All those already in different, I have 2 access points. They are in different locations in Prime infrastructure. So I'm going to show that. I have 2 buildings in Prime infrastructure. Some devices are in one building, some devices are in other buildings. Same thing with the access points. I have 2, one in each building. I have 2 maps, one in each floor. So in this case, I have one map in floor 2, and then we have the other map in floor 2 for the other building. We have the access points positioned and lit up in both maps. So this is what is in Prime today. I also have a CLI template that I provisioned into one of my devices. Very basic template. Again, this shows capability, but we can see that we provision it already into one of those devices. And what we are going to do is we're going to migrate all these things. The other thing that I'm going to migrate is ICE integration. So I have the definition of ICE here. So .27 is going to be my ICE server. And again, in this migration workflow, I'm going to migrate all these things. So what I showed is the locations, the inventory, the maps, the template, and ICE integration. We're going to do all those things at once. So this is the Prime Data Migration tool. From you can run PDART. We are going to just launch the Prime Data Migration tool. Yes, I have some issues with the license there, but that's fine.
We all do.
Yes. So you'll know that that's real. So the first thing is that we need to add the credentials from Catalyst Center. So we need to have IP reachability between both. And if there are any issues with username and password, you'll get an X here, and you'll know that both systems are not talking to each other. That's not true. I should say Catalyst Center does not talk to Prime. Prime talks to Catalyst Center. So I should say Prime cannot access Catalyst Center. Then we have a lot of info here. So this is what I said before. Before running the tool, we need to have this plan in place. So are we going to do a one-time migration, meaning I copy everything and then I right away decommission Prime infrastructure, or I'm going to keep Prime and Catalyst Center side by side for a little bit of time, maybe doing assurance in Catalyst Center and continue doing automation in Prime, in which case I might want to have automatic synchronization. What means by that is that if I continue doing automation in Prime, every time I add a new device, I will do it in Prime first, and Prime will use APIs to copy that into Catalyst Center. I mentioned before that there are like 3 optional things that I can integrate, so that has to be part of the plan. And this gives me some visibility on scale. This is more FYI to see if migrating what I have today will affect the scale of Catalyst Center. But again, in order to answer these questions, I need to have a plan before doing so. So in this case, I'm going to migrate ICE and templates. I don't have CMX, and I'm not going to do automatic synchronization. Again, that's part of migration plan. Every migration plan can be different. So this is what I have in Catalyst Center at the moment of recording the demo. So I want to show you what I have at this point. There are no devices at all in the inventory, so I have nothing here. From a template perspective, there's no Prime folder that is created. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm showing all these things is that all these components are going to show up automatically after migration. Same thing, I don't have any AAA servers. All of this is going to be populated automatically. So next, again, this is very important to have a plan. This is asking what locations, what groups I want to migrate at this point in time. In my case, I'm select the San Jose area. Remember, I had San Francisco, but not San Jose in Catalyst Center. But if I have multiple locations here, maybe I want to migrate San Jose first, and then I might want to migrate Milpitas, and then I might want to cover another location that has to be part of the plan. In my case, I'm going to select San Jose, and this is showing the locations from Prime, what I have in Prime today. So when I migrate into Catalyst Center, I can migrate things as they are, or I can use this opportunity to clean up a little bit this hierarchy. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a new site. So what this is showing is the hierarchy that I have in Catalyst Center now. So this is Catalyst Center, this is Prime. Mm-hmm. So this is asking, where are we going to put San Jose in this hierarchy? Where do I put it? This is where what we need to decide in this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, you can do this or you can choose an existing portion of the hierarchy. So I'm going to create a new area that is called California. So I'm going to use this opportunity to clean things up a little bit. And now I'm going to put San Jose inside California. This is something that you can do with the tool. Also from here, this is not very sexy, but this is very important. It's telling you what we are going to do. So this is basically this is the source and this is the destination. So I'm going to put this area in this part of the hierarchy of Catalyst Center. So if you don't agree with this, don't proceed. If you agree with this, you can proceed. But again, this information is very, very important because we know where things are going to be put. So now I'm trying to advance here and I get a pop-up saying, hey, you cannot proceed. So when we were looking at the PIDAR tool, I mentioned all this situation with the physical address that I need in Catalyst Center. So what this is saying is that there's here a portion of the hierarchy in Prime that doesn't have an address. So if I don't fix this, I cannot proceed with the workflow. Ideally, we should fix this before we can use APIs. And if we have a lot of this, doing all of this here is a pain. But we can do it here. Basically, what we need to do is add a physical address, and Catalyst Center will convert this into latitude and longitude internally, which is what I actually need. So once I have that, I proceed to the next step, which is ICE and CMX. For ICE, I need, excuse me, I need an FQDN, so I need to enter that manually. I don't have it in Prime, so this is a mandatory step. And also I need the password, the username and password for ICE that again, I cannot bubble up from the database, so I need to enter it here. So I'm going to enter the username and password, the shared secret. So the username is admin, but actually what I need is a secret. The timeout, I can adjust the timeout there. And lastly, it's going to be the template. I'm going to migrate the one template that I showed before. And now it's going to show me once again all the actions that we are going to do in this pass. And I can do this workflow many, many times. So if I have multiple locations and I want to migrate one location at a time, I run the same workflow and it keeps track of the data that was migrated before. So now this part takes time. So that's why a video is always a little bit easier. This time takes time, even if I don't have a lot of devices, as you just saw. So I really advance this section. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same we did before. We are going to go into Catalyst Center. We see all the devices that were populated. They were not there before. They're here now. Same thing with the locations. I can see California. Remember, California was created through the workflow. It didn't exist before. And then San Jose, 11, 13, and the area all came from Prime infrastructure. So one was created through the workflow and the other were available in Prime. Devices are located where they should be located. So in this case, I had only one access point in one location and all the other devices in the other location. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So that's...
And then the last quick thing, because it's just quick thing,
the
is
maps, right?
I see the maps. So this is the maps are both there. They look exactly the same as they were in Prime. It eventually is going to light up here. It's located where it should. So all that is copied automatically.
Even the placement of the devices on the map
and the
is copied.
placement of the devices, as well as assurance. So again, all the devices, after this action, all the devices will automatically start collecting assurance, the migration tool. And then I promise, and I'm not going to go through this extensively, but I promise some probing questions. So this is the questions that we consider when creating the plan. First, how many instances of Catalyst Center we need. That will depend on your scale. That will dictate how we migrate. Maybe if we need multiple instances, we need to migrate a portion of the network here, another portion of the network there. We support that, no problem. Is there a technical reason to keep Prime and Catalyst Center? Is there something in Prime that I'm using that it's not available? Or is there a non-technical reason, maybe comfort level? I'm not comfortable doing it all at once right away. Maybe I still haven't figured out how to change my operational model, so I need to keep both. Same thing, is there a preference to do gradual migration? Are there maybe different locations that I want to do first? Do I need to have maintenance windows so I cannot do everything at once? Or maybe I want to do everything at once. Is there a hierarchy that I need to clean up? Is there things that I need to fix, like the locations? Do I need templates? Do I need eyes? How to change the operational model? So these are not comprehensive at all, but that gives an idea on the conversations we have with our customers when trying to create that migration plan. So this is what I have for Prime migration.
Okay, so couple of, I mean, we're running out of time here. I'm not going to
I
ask too
know,
many
I
questions.
know.
I don't know if
That's
you have a
fine.
bit of time, Lila, to stay over like 10, 15 minutes over the actual time, because we can go longer just because we
10
started
minutes,
later
10
too.
minutes, because I need to actually need to leave. So 10, I can
Okay.
say 10 more minutes.
All
10
right.
minutes is
So,
fine.
all right. So then let's move on. Then I know you were talking about also migrating from Prime, for example, to like the Meraki dashboard for folks that are thinking of, hey, I'm changing the operational model completely. I want to move to a Meraki dashboard type of management from Prime. So what do we have for that?
So that's a good question. So when we think about migration, automatically we think let's take something similar to Prime, and that's completely a valid option. We talked like for 45 minutes about that. But the moment we are migrating, depending on where we are in our migration cycle, it might make sense to also consider, do we need to move to cloud? Catalyst Center supports cloud, but more of an infrastructure as a service. So you manage your own cloud infrastructure and your Catalyst Center in cloud deployment. If you're looking more of a SaaS architecture, then maybe moving to dashboard makes more sense. And from that perspective, as you might know, we are having a movement to where, let me advance the slide so you can see the animation, so that where we make this option a little bit simpler. So for the longest time, we had our Catalyst devices that were managed on-prem with Catalyst Center, our Meraki devices that were managed in cloud by dashboard. Now we are moving to a model where we are converging our hardware so that the same hardware, there's no Meraki hardware or Catalyst hardware, the same hardware you can manage in either cloud or on-prem with Catalyst Center. So if you are in that transition, if you wish, there's an opportunity to look at the new platforms. So we launched the new Cisco access points. We launched the new Cisco smart switches. So not Catalyst, not Meraki, the new smart switches. We even retrofitted some of the Catalyst switches like 92, 93, 9500 that can be managed directly in cloud. For this deployment model, there's not a particular migration tool, because when we do a full management of the platform, it requires to start from scratch a little bit. So you can do a zero-touch deployment, the dashboard zero-touch deployment. But again, maybe at that point, leveraging the new hardware and changing the operational model does make sense to consider cloud as an option.
Okay, because I mean, it's just a matter of Meraki has the APIs, right? So similar to how Catalyst Center has the APIs, I don't think it should be super complicated or difficult to build a tool or some type of script that gets you,
The
connected.
thing is, yeah, the thing is, so we don't, there are no, so let me backtrack. Dashboard has two options. So you can have your brownfield, your existing configuration in the device, in which case you can have more of an assurance experience with dashboard. So in that case, you could leverage, create something. There's not something out of the box, but we can look at APIs to onboard those devices. Having said that, onboarding those devices is pretty straightforward in dashboard. If you want to have the full management experience, devices need to go through a zero-touch deployment. So that is mostly intended for when the hardware refresh is aligned with the platform refresh. So if you're going to go through a hardware refresh, we can obtain those new hardware devices and start that new operational model in cloud directly. So there's not a migration motion. It's more of a starting with a new platform with the new hardware if those two things align at that point in time.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Okay, so maybe switching topics. So we talked
Yeah.
about we have an old platform, how we adopt a new platform. Now we have older switches. How can we leverage the automation capabilities that we have in Catalyst Center to migrate to those new switches? So before we talk about that, I want to run you, I put this as reference, but the workflow is very similar. So I want to use this animation to explain what we are doing. This is not refresh. This is what we call faulty device replacement. So faulty device replacement, what it means is that a device fails,
So
you
it's like
do
an
RMA.
RMA, right?
Yes, so you do the RMA. We don't take care of the tag and opening the ticket. This is more of the technical part of the device replacement, but yes, it's an RMA. I used to call it RMA, but then people thought it would go through the RMA process. And no. So you do all that, you get the new device, your technician on site, they don't need to know iOS XE and all these things. The only thing they need to do is rack the new device and all the connections, all the ports that are connected to the old device, they need to switch to the new device. So by leveraging what we call plug and play, but it's also the same as zero touch deployment. So it's an underlying capability. This device will connect to Catalyst Center. This device is new. It's going to show up as an unclaimed device, meaning Catalyst Center doesn't know what to do with this device, but it's fine. So this device maintains itself in the database, let's say. So now the network admin, that it's not the technician, is something that they know about networking, can say, hey, this is the red device and this is the green device. So we are going to go through a workflow that says I can replace my old device with this new device, which is in unclaimed state, meaning it's there in limbo. So Catalyst Center is going to take the config of switch number one. Actually, I should say, first it deploys the operating system version that we need, and then the config file into the device, and the device is going to be up and running. So this is the faulty device replacement workflow, or RMA. But this is a like-to-like replacement. So in our example, switch number one and switch number two, they need to be exactly the same. Same PID, same ports, same, if you have line cards, same line cards. If you have a stack, the same number. It has to be exactly the same. And we've been using this for a long time. Life is good. The reason I'm talking about this is that we are leveraging the back end of this workflow, so it will work very similar to this workflow. But in this case, we allow to have a replacement that goes from like to unlike, hence the refresh. So what do we support in this environment? At this point in time, we support old to new, and we support either a 3650 or a 3850 moving to a 9300 switch. So in this version, that's what we support today. The idea is to start adding newer platforms, but that is what we support today. Also, we support small to large. So if I have a 24 port 3650, I could move to a 48 port 9300. As long as the first 24 ports are the same. The extra ports, I don't care. But the ports that I'm going to migrate, they need to be the same. Same thing with the stack. I can move to whatever, 2 members to 3 members, but not 3 members to 2 members. And the 2 members have to be the same type of port. So I cannot move from a switch that the interface says interface gigabit Ethernet 101 to another switch that it says interface 10 gigabit Ethernet 101. They have the ones that are in switch number 1 need to show up the same in switch number 2. All the extras, I don't care. So that's kind of what we need to know. And then the device that we are replacing needs to be in a reachable state. The new device will obtain the same IP address as the old device. We don't want 2 devices with the same IP address. If it's not unreachable, you'll get an error message, so nothing is going to happen, but you need to know that. So I want to show you one quick thing that obviously this timed out. So in this case, I have 2 switches. I have, similar to what we were saying, a 3650 and a 9300. So the 3650 is a single switch. Let me do this. And then the 9300 is a stack. That takes a little bit of a while here. So this is my 3650, is 1 switch, and all interfaces are gigabit Ethernet 101, 102. So remember that, because I'll come back to that in a minute. So this is my stack. My stack has 2 members. We said from 1 to 2 is fine. So we can do that. But the important thing, if you're going to do this, is that if you see here, I have a stack, switch number 1 and switch number 2. Switch number 1 is, sorry, I'm hovering and bothering you, but I'm not going to hover, is 1 gigabit, gigabit Ethernet 101, 102, 103, very similar. When I go to switch number 2, we can see that these are the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet interfaces. So we see the 201, 202. If this switch is turned around and this switch is switch number 1, the workflow is going to fail. Because we cannot move interfaces 101 to 2101. So you will have to keep that in mind. Anyway, in my situation, switch number 1 is good. The serial number ends with 0C2, if we remember when we go through the workflow. So I'm going to replace one for the other. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the workflow that is called device refresh. No, switch refresh, I should say. I don't know, branch, because my site is called T-branch. This gives you a lot of information, exactly the prerequisites that I gave you before. So that's the same. So this gives me the devices that I have available, and I'm going to mark this device as refresh. And this device is the same as I showed you before. This is telling me the limitations that I can do 3650 and 3850. Oh, I didn't want to do that. That's fine. 3650 or 3850 to 9300. So again, everything that we saw in the slide. I'm going to mark this device and go through the workflow. And then is going to give me the devices that are candidates for replacement. So those devices that are, as we said before, either 9300. They are the same type of ports.
Mhm.
If I would have put my stack in reverse, meaning switch number 2 or switch number 1, it wouldn't have shown here because it wouldn't know how to map those ports. So once I select this device, it's going to go through the workflow. This workflow will not allow me to go because my switch is still reachable. The other thing is that we need to have a proper software version for the 9300. Technically, I might not have any 9300 in my environment at this point. Maybe every device is legacy. So this is saying, do I know which is the proper image for a 9300 in this site? In my case, I do, so I can advance, and then I can go through the workflow. Then it's going to show me the config that I have for 3650, and this is the config that I'm going to push to the 9300. So in the end, that's the actual workflow that we're going to use. Do we have any questions in the panel?
No questions about this. Shannon just made a comment that he had to bail, so he was watching this. Again, apologies, folks, for starting this a bit late. I got confused. First time ever it happens. We had actually started using the link from last week, but we made it. So thank you so much, Leela. Any comments? We have a bit of time. We have like a couple of minutes.
The comments again is YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I would suggest to go there. There are videos on most of the features that we talked about. Replacement workflow. We talked about the replacement workflow, but if you're not refreshing, you can use the same. The workflow is the same with the caveats that I mentioned, like to alike for failure. So if you have any devices with failure, it's pretty cool because you even maintain all the assurance. So we are going to swap one device from the other, and we are going to change serial numbers and all those things internally. Everything is done for you. So that's a good use of a workflow. I sometimes get questions, not sometimes, a lot of times. Can we do external backups of the config of the devices? First, the answer is yes. We can export all the config of the devices. But then I probe and I say, why do you want that? Well, if a device fails, I need to put the new config. And my answer is that's great, but technically you don't need to have those external backups.
Yeah, you already have it in Catalyst Center.
You have it, and the workflow is done for you.
Yeah.
So leverage that. So that was my point before with adopting, is learning to these new things that can make your life easier.
Yeah, that sounds like somebody that going old school and wants their configs saved externally, like text files or something.
Exactly. And I don't blame them in the sense that I do the same. I still like to have them, but not for that purpose. I still like to have a separate. So I do so you can have recurring backups. So we do for our lab, which is small, but I still don't want to lose my stuff. We do an external backup of the config. So we retrieve the config, not from the device, from Catalyst Center. So we have an SFTP server, and it copies, I don't remember, I think once a week, all the configs in a repository that we have, which is good, but we don't need it for device replacement.
All right, so fantastic. Thank you so much for showing us this. This is all new. And by the way, folks, if you need a Catalyst Center instance, you don't have it, you can always use the DevNet sandbox. We have their Catalyst Centers. We have up to 40 instances that you can reserve your own for up to 5 days. So you can go test it out, test the migration. Her Nielsen, you can try to export from Prem and import it in our sandbox, see if that works.
And I'll share, I don't know where, but what are the formats that we support? Because we don't support all the formats. What I am not sure is when we say we change things. So that's the only thing that maybe if he can provide a little bit more insight, that would be fantastic.
So her Nilsson, yeah, leave comments with more information, please, and then Lila and I will get back to you. All right, so we're at time here.
Wonderful.
Thank you all so much for watching this. Apologies for the bit of a mix-up at the beginning.
We did it. That's all. That's what
We
matters.
did
That's
it.
what matters.
It's December, holiday spirit. Everybody's kind of preparing for shutdown. So apologies a bit for that. But fantastic information, fantastic show. Thank you so much, Lila. So we covered again a quick recap, right? Prime infrastructure, you've seen its end of pretty much software support, and any vulnerability is not going to get fixed. That finished in September. So please, at this point, think of a plan to migrate either to Catalyst Center, or we briefly mentioned to the cloud. If you want to change your operational model completely, there is an option to do that too. But if you go in Catalyst Center, we have all the tools in place. We've talked about PDART, right? You run that tool initially, you install it as a software add-on pretty much in Prime Infrastructure. You run the tool at the beginning, it gives you a status of your Prime Infrastructure migration process, like where you are, what type of devices can be migrated, what types of features, right? If there's any issues. And then the actual migration tool itself, Lila had showed us, right, how you select. You can also do a site cleanup if you decide to do a brand new site. You can migrate also templates, inventory, maps, location on the maps, placement of the maps, which is really cool. And then, right, that was the migration piece from Prime to Catalyst Center. And then we briefly touched upon the migration workflow from 3850s, 3650s to 9300s, with the caveats that Lila mentioned. From smaller to bigger is fine. From no stack to stack is fine. It's just the naming of the ports has to be the same. That's absolutely mandatory. I think that was the gist of it. So, month of campus refresh.
One quick thing I'll
Yes.
share for this, and then I need to go. So this is what we support from Maps.
So
we can
Nielsen, there you go,
upload
Pro
and
Maps.
yes. So if the import is this format, and this is the upload. So those are the supported the formats that we support, and that's all. And I need to leave.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Lila, again.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, folks. We'll see you. Bye. We'll see you next week, episode 3. We're gonna talk about an AI agent with Gabby Zapodiano, an AI agent that will help you also with migrating from older Catalyst switches, your 3850s that we've seen today, 3650s, to the new one. So we'll have an AI agent that basically looks at the config and tells you what types of features are supported in the new versions with the new hardware, and if there's any issues that you might be running into as part of the migration. So we'll cover that next week. Fantastic content here on month of campus refresh. So for folks that are looking at refreshing their hardware, right, refreshing the software, going from older gear to new, this is the month that we have all this content for you. If you have any questions, let us know on socials, on comments on the videos that we do here, and we'll address them as soon as we can. So thanks again to Lila. Thank you all for watching. Apologies for the bit of mix-up at the beginning, but we'll be back next week with Gabby Z, and we'll talk about AI agents and also migrations from older hardware to newer Catalyst 9000s. Thanks again once more.